Deep from the bowels of the Macabre Theater Laboratory, we bring you Macabre Cast. There is nothing wrong with your streaming service. You are exactly where you should be, where the slush puppy machine is always on and cold. Your favorite horror mag is on the rack, discreetly placed between Women's Wear Daily and Cosmopolitan. I'm your host with the most, Doc Mark, along with my mold-riddled counterpart, Karis, the Little Mummy, here to bring you the latest episode of Macabre Cast, where we'll be dropping ours where they belong and adding them where they don't. This is a safe space for those who lived through the winter of '78 and the limited resources to deal with it, and look at this recent blizzard and say, please. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button and follow me on Spotify, YouTube, or TikTok, and tell a friend to do the same. Even that guy who can't seem to understand that all those Invasion of the Body Snatchers films are reboots, not sequels to each other. Yeah, that guy. If you wish to interact with the awesome fellow monster kids, follow the Facebook page, Macabre Theater. It's there where if you're not too much of a sissy, you can send me a voice message through Messenger and be part of the show. A link to the page can be found in the description of this episode. Macabre Cast episode 142 in all its glory begins now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Adoro il cast macabre.
So, Kara, Scary Larry has suggested this week's topic. An actor that normally has no business in horror, and it showed. Or maybe he or she surprised you at how well they did.
Scary Larry likes to compete with me on who's funnier. That's what he likes to do. And we all know who the funniest is, don't we?
Who?
Obviously me. I was the King Tut of comedy in Egypt.
3,000 years ago.
Regardless, I wasn't I? Scary Larry is, well, he's an unpredictable camera.
What? Scary Larry is an unpredictable camera?
That's right. He's a loose cannon.
And on that note, it's time for horror news. Sam Raimi has stated he wants to make a new Darkman film. Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair will be getting released to 4K sometime in 2026. Robert Eggers' film, Werewolf, has wrapped. Millie Bobby Brown has finally shared her thoughts on the final of Stranger Things now that all has calmed down. She says 11's final moments were beautiful and cathartic. Well, thanks for that. And that's it for horror news. And Draven agrees. Draven the blood-vomiting bat. Children of the night, what messes they make. So Laura Horror and I sat down and took Chicago Tina's advice and watched Sinners. The movie Chicago Tina felt was the best of 2025. Directed by Ryan Coogler, starring Michael B. Jordan, Jack O'Connell, and Haley Steinfeld. In an appearance of blues legend Buddy Guy as Old Sammy. Although this had some great music and great acting, it doesn't really explode into horror until the last fourth of the film, which is a total length of 2 hours and 17 minutes. And I hate to be that guy, but I was bored to tears in the first 3/4 of it. And if I may speak for Laura Horror, so was she. I just didn't care. The big twist that I already knew but Laura did not was neat, but From Dusk Till Dawn made their reveal within the first 20 minutes. Slow burn? Yes, I like slow burns, just not this one. And I know when compared to most, I'm alone on this one. It wasn't bad in my opinion, just not for me, and definitely not the best of 2025, especially when The Monkey came out in the same year. I give Sinners 3 out of 5 stars only because the horror stuff was pretty great. I just wish we had more of it.
Horror chap Matt knows all about monsters. He said they were coming to get me tonight.
Hey, Dark Mark, Little Cars, and all the other monster kids that are snowbound at the theater this week. It's Horror Chat Matt checking in. So dark. Scary Larry's topic suggestion for this week. Which actor surprised you that they were in a horror movie? And I have a couple of suggestions for everybody. Number one is a very funny comedian, but just did not work for me in a horror movie, and that's Chris Rock in Spiral. Up next, I have Brad Pitt in World War Z and Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs, and he turned into be one of the most iconic horror characters of all time, ironically. And then, for my most surprising one, is none other than the rifleman himself, Chuck Connors, starring in the movie Tourist Trap. Former NBA, Boston Celtic, and Major League Baseball player. He played for the Brooklyn Dodgers and the Chicago Cubs. Growing up watching reruns of The Rifleman, and then later on watching Tourist Trap, I could not believe that was the Rifleman in that movie. And he was pretty creepy. I'll give him credit. Not one of my favorite horror movies, but he was very good in it. And I did take in a movie this weekend. I kind of wish I didn't, so that's going to tell you right now. This is going to be a skip it. I saw the new movie Killer Whale. And let's just say this thing makes Orca from the 70s look like Jaws. This thing was bad. Bad. The main actress was okay. Her friend that she stuck with is decent enough, and just poor, cheap-looking CGI as always. And it's a story you've seen 1,000 times with sharks, only this time it's with a killer whale. So I'm going to say stay out of the ocean on this one and don't waste your time. As always, Dark, make mine Macabrecast.
Good choices, Horror Matt. Of course, Brad Pitt was in Interview with the Vampire, a movie I find myself returning to over and over again. I really enjoyed that and thought he did a great job. Anthony Hopkins, you're right, almost, I think, like close to 20 years before Silence of the Lambs, he was in Magic, and he's definitely got the creep factor going on there. Oh, it's probably turned up to 12 in Silence of the Lambs, but you can just see a little bit of it in Magic, which is one of those movies where the preview was 1,000 times more scarier than the film itself, if you haven't seen it. So great to hear from you, Horror Chat. We look forward to hearing from you every week, and we hope to hear from you again soon.
And now it's time for Real World Horror. And now here's your host, Dark Mark.
On January 6th, 2007, in Knoxville, Tennessee, a couple, Shannon Gale Christian, age 21, Hugh Christopher Newsome, Jr., were carjacked by 4 men and 1 woman. Latalvis Darnell Cobbins, Lamarcus Deval Davidson, George Giovanni Thomas, Eric Dwayne Boyd, and Vanessa Lynn Coleman. The couple were taken to a rental house where they were both raped, tortured, and finally murdered. Lamarcus Davison was sentenced to death. Eric Boyd, life in prison. Latalvis Cobbins, life in prison. George Thomas, life in prison. Vanessa Coleman, 35 years in prison. According to the Associated Press, many media critics claimed that the national media largely ignored this story because its victims were white and the perpetrators were black. Police Chief Sterling Owen said that there was no indication that the crime was racially motivated. Reverend Ezra Mazie said, "It's not a black and white issue, it's a wrong and right issue. Those who committed the crime should be punished."
Tune in next time to Real World Horror with Mark.
Greetings, Doc Mark and Karis.
Is this something you could share with the rest of us, Amazing Larry?
Thinking all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Or something. Hey, Karis. The other day I bought a thesaurus, but when I got home and opened it, all the pages were blank. I have no words to describe how angry I am. Pressing forward. So I was watching videos of some of the horror of the 90s, different topics and stuff, and it inspired me to come up with this topic to suggest to Dark Mark what actors, actresses you don't associate with horror that actually did horror. So let's start off with Chuck Norris. He's a favorite of mine, but not a name you'd associate with horror. He did 3 horror movies. You've got Silent Rage, The Hero and the Terror, and Hellbound. I love Silent Rage. The other 2 were okay, but not great. Now, you have Arnold, another action star. You don't think of someone who would delve into horror, but he gave us both End of Days, a gritty folk horror tale, and in my opinion, a surprising performance in Maggie. I do recommend both of those. Here's a name, Frankie Avalon. Actually tried to break out of his beach bum persona with a couple of horror movies. An early one called Horror House, and another one called Blood Song, in where he plays a serial killer. To be honest, I haven't seen either, but I am curious. Now, Demi Moore. She was the poster girl for I Spit on Your Grave. She also did horror movies like her second film, Parasite, The Seventh Sign, and last year's The Substance. While thinking on this, I actually did think of a missed opportunity. The 2005 Amity Horror remake was rather forgettable, even with Ryan Reynolds in the lead. I thought, they really should have used James Brolin to reprise a role his dad did in the original. Josh Brolin starred in the original. They should have had James Brolin do the remake. Anyways, so I sat through a painful 32 minutes of 1981's Don't Go Into the Woods. Avoid this clunker at all costs. It reminded me of, say, a theater camp out in the boonies decided to spend $50 and make a horror movie. The acting sucked. The plot sucked. The killer sucked. Did I mention all the suck? I won't bore you with the details. Just run. What's less than half a star? Can I give it less than half a star?
Ever since Scary moved, he's been trying his comedy out at nursing homes. And now there's a warrant out for his arrest because he's killing everybody there. They're dying.
Back when I was a kid, Scary, and we had just gotten HBO. Silent Rage was one of those films that kind of got played over and over again. And I loved it. That was like Chuck Norris meets Mike Myers. Well, that's what it reminded me of, and that's why I loved it. Seventh Sign with Demi Moore is one of Laura Harr's favorites. I know it was one of her favorites when I first met her. And Don't Go in the Woods was not only a VHS box I passed every time I went into the mom and pop Video Village store because I just thought it looked not very good, and that was just from the poster art. Joe Bob recently had that on his Friday night movie on Shudder, or it was the second film, which is always good because a lot of times I fall asleep during that or right before it, so not too sad that I missed that. Thank you again, Scary Larry, for always seeing it so we don't have to. Okay, so weighing in on Scary Larry's topic, actors you wouldn't expect in a horror film. And I'm going to start with the actors who surprised me with their versatility. First up is Leslie Nielsen in 1982's Creepshow. What a great actor. And what a great villain. He was also in the original Prom Night, but this was the standout role. He's in the segment titled Something to Tide You Over. Next would be John Goodman in 2016's Cloverfield Lane. And wow, can he turn on the creep factor. Last on my list is Richard Burgi, who was in two soap operas, The Young and the Restless and General Hospital. He's a rich businessman paying to play a torture killer in 2007's Hostel Part 2. My list of had no business being in a horror film would be Paul Rudd as his performance as Tommy Doyle in that mess that was 1995's Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. Next would be Jim Carrey in the number 23. And last but not least, Jennifer Aniston in 1993's Leprechaun. Yeah! And there you have it. There's my has no business being in and my surprise list. And so this week I had the chance to finally check out the film Beast of War from 2025. Directed by Kai Roach Turner, starring Mark Cole Smith, Joel Purvis, and Sam Delich. A great white shark onslaught on the ocean during World War II. No, it's not the tale Quint told us about during the sinking of the Indianapolis, but a fictional story about the sinking of a ship on the Pacific and its few remaining survivors clinging to a makeshift raft while dodging a 20-foot Carcarian Carcarius. We still get to witness the things Quint described in his horrific sea chronicle, like one of the life-jacketed soldiers getting upended. The perfect blend of practical effects with a touch of CGI. We get enough of the servicemen's boot camp to like or dislike the main characters and witness their personal oppositions with one another. Good acting, nice suspense. Put this one above most shark films. So many bad ones. All you need is a decent filmmaker with some ingenuity, and in my opinion, that's what we have here. Jack-O-Lantern and Laura Harr watched along with me, and I can add they enjoyed Beast of War as much as I did. I give this 3.5 stars out of 5. Go check this one out.
Go check it out!
Way cool. It's Chicago Tina.
Hello, Dark Mark and Karis, the little mummy. How are all the Drac Pack and Monster Kids doing this week? Well, I personally haven't left the house since the Patriots won the AFC, and I don't plan on going outside until probably February 2nd, where I will be mistaken for Puxatawny Phil. Too bad about the Bears. I was hoping they would get into the Super Bowl race and we'd have 1986 all over again, but that's just the way it goes, whatever. Anyway, well, this week I watched a movie called Funny Games from 2007, not the German version. And I watched it because a lot of people told me it was very disturbing and I shouldn't watch it. So, of course, I watched it. And I'm not a sociopath, but I've watched a lot of serial killer documentaries, and I find those disturbing. But this kind of film didn't bother me. And I didn't like it, but I did love the cast, especially Michael Pitt and Peter Corbett. I thought they were really good, and I've liked them in other things too. So, yeah, it's a film. Get over it. So, I missed the Macabre cast episode where you were talking about metal, and as someone who had every inch of my bedroom walls covered in metal posters, I wanted to say you're right on the mark about Iron Maiden. My favorite poster was of Eddie, which hung over my bed. That's right, Stranger Things fans. That was his name. Eddie was the mascot of Iron Maiden, in case you did not know. Yeah, that was my favorite. I absolutely love metal. My name should have been Metal Melody, but whatever.
Metal Tina? It just doesn't have the same ring.
There's a lot of bands around right now that you should check out. A really good metalcore band that's horror influenced is a band called Ice Nine Kills. You might check them out, Mark. You'd probably like them. And right now, I'm following the MCR tour, which currently is pretty stabby. That's all I'm going to say about that. Anyway, right now, I just started watching The Outsider by the Stephen King based on the Stephen King book. And I think I'm going to read the book because there's only 10 episodes, and I really like the first episode so far, and I'd like to draw it out a little longer. Your topic this week, I really can't say much, but the upcoming Exorcist film with Scarlett Johansson is yet to be seen. So, I guess until next week, keep an open mind. I can't wait to hear more about what you guys thought or think about the topic this week. Oh, one last thing. I just wanted to say Dream Warriors was my favorite song from any horror movie. I was really into that at the time. So I'll be talking to you guys in the future. Bye.
Well, all I can say, Chicago Teener, if it was 1986 all over again, Doc Mark here would be 17. And that would give me almost 10 years, or a little less than 10 years, to expose Harvey Weinstein for his crimes so I could keep his fat fingers out of the curse of Michael Myers, and maybe we wouldn't have had the mess that film was when it got to the theater. So there's that. And yeah, the horror and mixed with metal episode, you mentioned the posters and stuff. Yeah, on top of like Iron Maiden and heavy metal posters on my wall, I had all the Fangoria posters that used to come in the magazine, with grotesque pictures of monsters and death. That was kind of all over my walls as well. And the upcoming Exorcist with Scarlett Johansson, it will be interesting. Does anyone know what part she's playing? Is she supposed to be like the part of Reagan not that she is Reagan, but like an older version of what Reagan was? I mean, does anyone know what part Scarlett Johansson is playing? That's what I'm curious about. So great to hear from you, Chicago Tina. And by the way, I love Dream Warriors too. Still like it to this day, although I don't think that's my favorite Elm Street movie. I really like 1 and 2 and always will. But always great hearing from you, Chicago Tina, and we hope to hear from you again next week.
Don't touch that dial, monster kids.
Yeah, you don't know where it's been.
Pipe down, it's almost time for the final thought.
Not quite, bro. Not before. Cobwebbed classics.
Ooh, yeah, Cobwebbed classics.
Cobwebbed. Welcome to Cobwebbed Classics, where I dust off a lost, forgotten, or just plain unappreciated film and introduce it to, or maybe just remind you about it, so your spooky Saturday night might run a little creepier. This week's Cobwebbed Classic is 1981's Happy Birthday to Me, directed by J. Lee Thompson, starring Melissa Sue Anderson, Glenn Ford, and Lawrence Dane. At the height of the 80s slasher craze, and a tad short on holiday titles, comes Happy Birthday to Me. And right in line with our topic, stars you wouldn't normally expect to see in a horror film. We have Little House on the Prairie star Melissa Sue Anderson, desperate to shed her wholesome schoolgirl image. Here she plays Virginia, a student at the rich kids' school Crawford Academy in Massachusetts, go figure. She is part of a group of the most popular students who call themselves the Top 10. We get a superbly shot murder scene of one of the females from the group. Keep an eye out for two actors, Matt Craven and Jack Bloom, who played Hardware and Spaz in Meatballs for you Bill Murray fans. One of my favorite veteran actors, Glenn Ford, plays Dr. Faraday, Virginia's psychiatrist, who helps her with the trauma of a car accident she had as a child and her mother was killed. Like 10 Little Indians, our top 10 get chopped down, and the film does a great job of keeping you guessing who done it, throwing red herrings galore. But after all the suspense, after all the creative kill scenes, this movie opts for the Scooby-Doo ending. And for me, it cost it one of its stars, knocking it from a 4 down to a 3 out of 5. One interesting fact, they have a real neurosurgeon performing a brain surgery on a fake brain. During one of Glenn Ford's scenes, the assistant director called for a lunch break, which caused a dispute, ending in Ford hitting the assistant director. There are reports that Glenn Ford was drinking heavily during production. The script was written with an ending to the story, but no twist, so producers tinkered with it and created the twist. And this is why there is very little build-up to it. Taglines for this gem are as follows.
You're invited to the bloodiest party of the year. Pray you're not invited to the party. 6 of the most bizarre murders you will ever see.
1981's Happy Birthday to Me is this week's
Cobwebbed Classics.
The following program is rated TV MALV. It contains strong language and violence. It is intended only for mature audiences.
Metal Melody.
Hello, Doc, Mark, Karis the Little Mummy, and all the Macabre fans listening. It is me, Metal Melody checking in. So, first let me say, Mark, that I really enjoy listening to your real world horror segments on your show. The last one in your last episode, I had never heard of The Giggler, and of course it's probably because this was before I was even born, but even still, I never heard of them. You would have thought like I would have heard about it like years later, unless I did and I just don't remember because that was a long time ago. I also wanted to say, I don't know if it's Horror Chat Matt or Scary Larry talking about It's Alive. One of my favorite movies from back in the day. I also loved it, and I'm going to have to watch it again soon because I haven't seen that in some odd years myself. I haven't seen much movies this past week, but I did go to the theater to see Silent Hill, and it has nothing to do with any of the previous Silent Hills at all. Different characters, different storyline. It's a whole different story. But this one's about a guy, James, who gets a letter from his lost love, Mary, calling him back to Silent Hill. Only when he goes back, it's not the Silent Hill that he remembers, and it has turned malevolent and dark, filled with creatures. Yeah. And he runs into the armless Pyramid Head and the Spider Lady. The Spider Lady is my favorite. And of course, all the scary nurses, that don't move until they hear something, and they're like, I friggin' love that. But the whole movie's about him trying to find her. I feel it was a little drawn out, but all in all, I thought it was a pretty good movie. Definitely one to wait till it streams, though. That's for sure. And not that it's a horror movie, but I mean, it is like, I don't know, would you call that? No, it's not sci-fi either. I guess just a thriller. But anyway, as far as the topic goes, on the actor or actress that either, surprised you in a movie or, for the good or for the bad. For me, I have to say is Hugh Grant in The Heretic, because I had only seen him previously in comedy and romantic movies. And when I saw this come out, I thought, oh, there's no way he's going to pull that off. Like, he's just not made for that type of movie. But I have to say, he really did a great job, and I was pleasantly surprised. So, go Hugh Grant. Whoop, whoop. And not that it's a horror movie or anything, but let me just say, Send Help with Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien. Yeah. Don't even bother watching it. The movie sucked. That's all. That's all I have to say for this week. So until we chat again on episode 143, and we'll see what movies I see then that maybe I can review. I know Scream 7 is coming out in February sometime. I'm not too sure, and a few others. But that's all. Everybody take care and have a fantastic week. Bye-bye.
So glad you're enjoying the new segment, Metal Melody, Real World Horror. Because I always wonder sometimes how these new segments are working out. And it's alive, directed by Larry Cohen. Larry Cohen was a one-of-a-kind director and filmmaker, and is known for so many great old school horror films. The Winged Serpent, The Stuff. Return to Salem's Lot is a standalone. So it's sort of a sequel, not really to Salem's Lot, but that's kind of out there. God Told Me To. Those are just some of them. But great filmmaker. Silent Hill's a standalone. That's nice to know. I've never even seen the other Silent Hill, and I need to know is that any good? Am I missing out on something there? Heretic, I think that's on one of Scary Larry's blacklists, where he claims he said that as opposed to Hereditary. But Kara seems to think he was really referring to Hereditary. But that's old news. And Scream 7 will be releasing on February 27th, 2026. I'm never disappointed with those movies. I seem to like them all, with the exception of Part 3, which I know some people like, but I like the least. Always great to hear from you, Metal Melody, and we hope to hear from you again next week.
Goditi questo episodio de Cast Macabre.
Thank you, Maria Monstalia, for telling our Italian friends to enjoy this episode of Macabre Cast. So here we are in our fast food, expendable goods, and prosperity civilization, where information, shopping, practically any film we wish to see at the moment is all within a computer we carry around that's the size of a wallet. But call me crazy. If you're my age and grew up in the 70s and 80s, where that Saturday came and King Kong vs. Godzilla was the start of Creature Double Feature, and you missed it, then you missed it. And it could be donkey years before those stars aligned again. The family TV guide severely annotated week after week so you could set your alarm for 2 a.m. as to not miss that showing of House of Frankenstein. The 1980s saw the invention of DNA profiling, compact discs, and personal computers, but seeing you had to essentially learn a second language to operate them was of little interest. VCRs were invented in 1956 and went for roughly $50,000. But in the mid-80s, became affordable and common within the home and a godsend to monster fans. Such simpler times. And although difficult to see our favorite scary movies, it made each one an event not to be missed. Now it's 100% easier to dismiss a film within 30 seconds and move on to one of the other thousands available. Innocent youth, now only a memory. Beware the moon. Keep clear of the moors. But most of all, remember, be good to yourself. This is Dark Mark, signing off. See you soon, I hope.
This is a Macabre Theater production.
Subscribe.